Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Gong, the podcast about sales at startups, where this season we're taking a deep dive into what it's like for me to run my own startup, Riveter, and all the sales parts of it. This has been a very crazy week, one with a bunch of good news. So I wanted to take 10 minutes and tell you guys about four bits of news, news or experiments. The first, and I think possibly the most important one, is that obviously this is a podcast about sales at startups, and sales means external facing sales. Sales means how do you sell your product to people. But sales, as I learned over the last couple of weeks, also means internal facing sales. One of the most important jobs, I love this line I heard years ago of, oh, everyone who starts a company thinks it's going to be all about how well you can sell the product or how good of an engineer you are or how well you can build things or your understanding of vision and strategy. But really, the only thing you're really doing is recruiting and figuring out administrative software. And the recruiting part is where the sales really comes in. Over the last couple of weeks, we began and ended the hunt to look for our fourth employee to join us. And it was incredibly challenging sifting through. First, you go in different waves, right? You have your top of funnel. You sift through all the profiles. You invite people to speak with you. After that, you need to get an okay, so you got to pitch them on the LinkedIn message. Do something interesting for them. Right now, we find ourselves in a time of mass unemployment, so it's actually fairly easy to figure out who is available and who isn't. But even so, these people are very, very smart, very ambitious. They're looking at jobs at huge companies that are doing a lot of hiring, Google and Facebook, and somehow you got to compete against them just in that initial LinkedIn message. Then you have the interviews, and of course you're trying to test them for who they are, but you're also trying to figure out how to pitch yourself as an individual and as a company really well. I mean, why does anybody join as the fourth person in a startup? The amount of risk, the amount of uncertainty is so insane that I think what worked for us and what got people really excited to continue and go through this process with us is the fact that we started off with a mission. We started off really high-minded, and we already showed a lot of product and traction. I was incredibly open with people. When people asked how much money we raised, I told them exactly. I'll tell you all. We raised $25,000, and this is how much we can pay. This is our range, and this is what the job's going to look like, and this is what we've done so far, and this is how we're going to raise more. And I think that transparency is the reason somebody joins a startup. It's being involved at the top, it's making decisions, and it's having openness. And so we wanted to be able to live by those values even in the interview slot. Now, when we got down to the last few candidates, we put them through this interview process where initially I myself interviewed maybe 15 or so people and then extended an offer to join us for a second round to about 7 people. And that second round, I always have people do a little project, especially in the early hires. I think it's so important to be able to see, A, how they perform, but B, for an early employee, it's probably more important that they want to join you than you want them to join you. I mean, they're taking the risk. They're doing something insane. For them, this came out of nowhere. For you, you've been thinking about this for months or years. For them, someone sent them a cold LinkedIn messages, and then 2 weeks later, they might be starting at a company. So getting them involved, getting them eager to participate is really important early on. So we have them do a project. In this case, we're hiring sort of for a product marketing role, and the project we gave is say, hey, go interview 3 to 5 people who have been laid off, come back to us and give us some ideas about some partnerships or products that would make that all a lot better. So we did that project, and that really taught us to suss out or just see how much people cared, how much effort they put into something, what it looked like, how they spoke, what they designed like, and all of that. So that second part was incredibly helpful. And then when we got down to it, there were a few candidates who were just absolutely exceptional. And Andrew and I struggled to figure out which one we're going to go with because, I mean, they were all fantastic. But the one we went with was super qualified and so smart. And we were so lucky to try to get her. So when I called her to give her the offer, I wanted to hear from her one more time why it is that she wanted the job, and I asked her like that, and when she answered why that was, and I kind of heard it in her own words, I told her, great, I'll think about it, call her back soon, and I did, and I gave her the offer, and I told her one more time what we can build together, what we can accomplish together, what I want her role to be, her responsibilities to be, and I think, if we take this from the perspective of sales again, and you're selling somebody to join your company, being able to show this vision to them of what your company can do for them, just like you would do to a customer. What can joining Riveter do for your career is something incredibly important. And I spent a lot of time thinking about how to illustrate that, how to say it concisely. And I suppose whatever it is I said did work, because I'm so happy to announce that Eleni is actually going to be joining our team. So that was a huge, huge win, and sort of the first big learning of how much of sales at startups is really recruiting at startups, and those are one and the same. The next thing is, I mentioned last week that a new customer kind of came out of nowhere. It was the first customer that I didn't know personally, but it was also a very different customer than we thought we'd have. So at first, we thought the business model was very simply a business does layoffs. They buy Riveter memberships for the people that they lay off, and that's it. But then we realized, and COVID was a great teacher of this, you're not going to get everybody on that first wave. As they sift through, you can only get so many employers. So how do you get them after they've already been laid off, and how do you provide those resources to those people? Well, think about it. If somebody gets laid off, go through your user journey, one of the first things many people do is they look to a temp agency or a placement agency or a recruiter. And these recruiters, they need to, A, attract great talent to them so that they can impress their clients or companies, so they can place really great people there. And they need to have a very high brand in order to do so. They need to keep those people engaged. They need those people to recommend to other people who lose their jobs, hey, you got to try out this placement agency because they took such great care of me. So the thought when this new client came to us, this new placement agency, True Talent Group, came to us and said, hey, we got thousands of people we can't find a job for in the next couple of months. Maybe we can offer Riveter as a service in the meantime. Created this new thought about business models. So actually been testing that one out and trying to send out a lot of messages to recruiters and placement agencies, getting on calls, and figuring out how much of a need it is for them. So I'll share two things on that front. The first is, I'm not necessarily, for better or for worse, thinking about, is this a big enough market? Is it worth chasing after? Is it the right size of a market? Things like that. If we found a need that helps us work on our mission of helping people thrive in unemployment, we found a business need to be able to find revenue from that, we're going to do it. We're at least going to try to do it. We're going to pursue it. We're going to see what happens. And then if it works, but maybe it's not going to build us into a $1 billion company, but it'll work for the first few million, well, that'll help build our product. It'll help get revenue, and then we'll be able to pivot to slightly new business models as we go on with that traction. So I'm not worried. I am not interested in finding the biggest possible market at first. I know what our mission is, and I know what the end product is. We're here to help people find opportunity and thrive in unemployment. And so if recruiters, even a small segment of them, are interested in paying for that, we're going to go after that. So that's the first thing. The second thing is about specifically how our first pilot went. So True Talent Group, a placement agency in Minneapolis, who we love very much. If you're in Minneapolis, call True Talent. They sent out an email yesterday morning to their 6,000 or so followers, and we got some of those metrics. And so we were tracking a bunch of different things there, including the actual click rate on the email that they sent, which came out to, let's see, we can pull that up here. That click rate was the open rate was something like 25%, which is awesome. It means the subject line they shared was great. The click-through rate was 5%, which was really, really cool. But we're really tracking, and where I'm not sure yet how to feel, is our conversion once they actually landed on our page. We created a special landing page just for them, co-branded with True Talent. We had 63 visitors to that page and 23 conversions for a conversion rate of about 34%. This was yesterday. And so 34% is not bad. It's pretty good for a conversion rate. Small sample size, but pretty good for a conversion rate. Though I had hoped, to be honest, that our value is so irrefutable and so niche and so targeted and so differentiated that our conversion rate would be more like 80%. Perhaps that was naive to think so, but that's what I was hoping for. So what we're really going to be working on, and what Eleni, to tie this back to hiring, is going to be working on, is figuring out how – I told Eleni her job is to make users recently laid off Americans say, thank God for Riveter. Once we have people saying that, once they love the product so much that they're saying thank God for Riveter, and anybody who gets laid off in their Fred group, they say, hey, figure out a way to get a Riveter membership. You need a Riveter membership. Thank God for Riveter. That's success. And one of the first steps to that is figuring out how to grow that conversion rate by understanding the user's problems more so we can speak to them more directly. Maybe right now on our landing page, we put too much emphasis on, say, the wellness aspect of our offerings, where we should put more emphasis on the education aspect of our offerings, or on the unemployment resources and informative aspect of our offerings. We don't know enough yet, so our goal, that's a great metric to start with, our goal is to raise that over time. And that's what's been going on so far this week. So great news on Eleni, great news on LinkedIn. I think I'm fairly, or great news on the new customer rather. I'm fairly happy with how things going. I'll open up. There's times where it's really tough, where nothing happens in a day, and you kind of just hit a wall, and you send out 20 messages and nothing gets answered, and looks like an advisor tells you that you're doing everything wrong and you're not speaking to customers the right way, or small market, big, not wrong market, shrinking market, COVID only market, and there's a lot of people hitting you hard with negativity, but every once in a while you get an incredibly positive day. And for me, both professionally and personally, that day was Tuesday, because in the same day we started off with Eleni, the new customer launched, and I got engaged. I think everyone here should know. So Tuesday was a very big day. Now that I'm engaged, and girlfriend Abby, co-host Abby, who you met in the first couple of episodes, and we'll be back for the next episode, and is now fiance Abby. So that's very exciting, and it's been quite a week on all fronts. So we will see how things continue to go, but so far so good, I'd say. All right, folks, if you want to learn more about Riveter, check out riveterworks.com. If you have any thoughts, ideas, questions for me, find me at alubarski2 all over the internet, on Twitter, on LinkedIn. My email is adriel@riveterworks.com, and find us on Twitter at riveterworks, where we're giving hashtag advice from the unemployed. Happy selling.